Welcome back to the channel, it's Andy, and FM23 is finally out. The beta is now available and we are going to get into the game for the very first time. Of course, Spurs is the team we're going to be managing during this beta period for probably a couple of seasons, maybe up until around Christmas time. We'll wait and see how things go. But if you're excited for more FM content from me, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on so you don't miss a video. Leave a like on the video, they really help. Leave some comments as well. Let me know who you're managing for the beta period. Let me know who you're going to be taking charge of in your first matches of the game. So yeah, we're going to make our manager. Let's have a look at what we can potentially do here. I know they've done some new bits with the manager creation. I mean, you've got a scarf here. That's, oh my god, that's awful. Oh, that looks so bad. Okay, we're not wearing a scarf. I'm going to go for the waistcoat. I'm going to go for the Gareth Southgate look. Yeah, I know accessories are a thing, so you can have like wristwatches and stuff. We'll go for a smartwatch on my right wrist. Why the hell not? I will say, like, I've not been totally blown away by the features they've announced for the year. I don't think they've really done the things that the fans wanted them to do, like the set pieces and the international management. I think those were the two sort of biggest things that I heard from people. Still some interesting additions, like the planner. And obviously the Champions League stuff and the UEFA licenses is quite a big deal. Actually looked really good as well. I thought it was going to be a lot of fluff, like the deadline day stuff from last year. But the Champions League stuff and the European stuff actually looks really cool. So there's that. But yeah, the build hasn't been amazing. But, you know, it's a new game. I'm looking forward to it. Let's crack into it. I'm wearing my FMFC shirt myself. Right, let's start a new game. We'll go into the career and we'll pick Spurs for our team. So Man City have their badge because they now have an affiliation with SI. I will get the badges and faces installed over time. They'll take probably a little bit of time to get that in there. But yeah, we'll get those in there soon, definitely. So we've got a pretty big database here. I've got the top 6 leagues. I've got Scotland in there as well. I've disabled first window transfer activity, so we can't make any signings this summer. We won't make any signings until January. I've also disabled attribute masking just because I want to see like some players. I want to see what their attributes are. We're not probably going to be going through these players. We're not going to be signing them. I just want to see some players in a bit more detail. No in-game editor, but I'm going to do some videos probably over the next year or so, maybe using the in-game editor to, you know, do a few experiments and simulations, things like that. We'll have a look at some bits and pieces there. So Spurs is going to be our safe for the beta and probably for a little bit longer after that. I'm looking at probably around Christmas time we'll finish that, maybe get 2 or 3 seasons done. Thing with Spurs is it's been a long time since they've won a trophy. 2008, they won the League Cup. And boy, you have to go back to the 1990s for their last one. This past decade, the 2010s, there's the first decade where Spurs haven't won a trophy since like the 50s, I think, something like that. But we're aiming a bit higher than that. We don't want a trophy in this save. We want all of them. So I don't know how long it will take. I don't know how long we'll be playing, but we're going to try and win as many trophies as we can. We're going to try and win the league. We're going to try and win a domestic cup. We're going to try and win something in Europe. We're going to go for as many trophies as we can. And of course, Spurs are approaching almost a full calendar year with Antonio Conte as their manager. Of course, they sacked Nuno Espirito Santo back in the 1st of November, I think it was. And Conte's really got them playing some you know, good football. Not necessarily nice looking football, but, you know, they're certainly getting results from it. Heung-min Song's been doing fantastic, and him and Kane have just such a good link as well. Of course, they've got Champions League football this year, and that was a selling point of, you know, playing as Spurs for the beta, is that we get to look at all the UEFA licensing stuff. Originally, I was going to do a Leicester series, but Leicester don't have any European football this year, and I think the UEFA stuff was kind of a selling point for doing Spurs, really. It was between those two. But they made some good signings. Like Højbjerg's been like a really sort of physical, sort of defensive midfielder before them. They've got Richarlison in for some like centre forward support. Semi Kulusevski, who's on loan from at Juventus as well. Bentancur's been brought in for the midfield. Bissouma, Romero at the back as well. They made some good signings. But like I was saying about their trophies, Spurs have won at least one trophy in every decade from the 1950s to the noughties. And this past decade, the first like decade in which they haven't actually won anything. Like, they got some pretty big things to their name. Like, they were the first non-league side to win the FA Cup. They won the League and FA Cup double, the first team to do that in the 20th century. They won both of those in 1961. They were the first British side to win a UEFA competition. They won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1963. They won the very first UEFA Cup in 1972, the first British club to win 2 different European trophies. They've got some big accolades to their name. They're also my dad's side. My dad supports Spurs, so there's that as well. Have I taken charge of Man City? Have I actually just done this? I think I've selected to manage Man City. I didn't realise that. I didn't thought I had a chance to pick my manager. I thought I still had to pick the team. I've taken charge of Man City. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, what an absolute schoolboy error. So at the top it said no team picked, you pick your team afterwards. So I don't know what happened there. I've got absolutely no idea. I mean, we're off to a fantastic start with the beta. Jesus Christ. I've got some other stuff planned throughout the year as well. Some like sort of simulations, experiments. Top 10 lists, because apparently this is Watch Mojo FM. But yeah, I want to do some lists. There's a possibility of streams as well. We'll wait and see what we can do about that. I mean, honestly, 2023 is hopefully when I'm going to be able to get a place by myself. So I think that would make that a lot easier. So that may well be a thing for the future as well. Okay, now we can actually pick our club. We can have a look at Tottenham. Predicted to finish third in the Premier League. Fantasy club information. I guess that's draft stuff. Squad budget just over £1 billion, a squad size of 33. Of course, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, pretty new stadium, 62,850 spectators can fit in there. White Hart Lane's been knocked down, of course. They're in the UEFA Champions League. It's good to see that. We've got a board culture and supporter culture, which is interesting. So the board want attacking football, signing under 22 players for the future, playing possession football, develop players using the youth system and not signing players over 30. But the fans want entertaining and attacking football. They want possession football and they want that youth development as well. Okay, we are actually now managing Tottenham, so that's good. I don't really know what happened there and it's kind of picked Man City for us, but we seem to be okay now. I'm going to leave the attributes as they are. I'm not going to mess around with them too much. And then we will jump into it. So we have a 2-year contract worth £61,000 a week. We replace Conte. Director of football, Fabio Paratici. Stellini is our assistant coach. Fierce rivals with Arsenal, of course, the North London rivals. No transfer budget. We can't make any signings in the window anyway. Because last season they finished 5th place, just missed out on Champions League football. According to this, they finished 5th last season. They didn't. They finished 4th, hence they were in the Champions League. Looking like a 3 at the back here with Lenglet, Romero and Eric Dyer in that back. Looking like a 3... Potential 3 at the back formation here with Perisic and Doherty as those wing-back players, Bentancur and Højbjerg in midfield, the back 3 of course Lenglet, Romero and Dyer, and then that front 3, Son, Kane and Kulusevski, of course Richarlison waiting in the wings as well. We've got players out on loan, Lo Celso, Winks, Rodon, Troy Parrott, Reguilon and Ndombele. So we've seen the club vision and we've seen the board culture and have a look at what they want in terms of, qualification stuff. End of this season, they want us to qualify for the Europa League, so that's going to be probably like top 5, top 6 finish. Reach the latter stages of the FA Cup, get through the Champions League groups, and then be competitive in the Carabao Cup. Work towards becoming self-sustainable, so basically making our own money through sales and things like that, I guess. And then it's about trying to, push for the title. End of 2025, they want us to win the Champions League. So that's quite a way away. That's, a good sort of, what's that, season 3, they want us to win the Champions League. And then win the Premier League the year after that as well. Just try and work towards trying to get as many trophies as we can. Maybe we can do that earlier than that. We will see. Of course, the supporter culture is something new for this year. So slightly different expectations. They want entertaining football. And then they want us to finish above Arsenal in the league. So you've got that added pressure of trying to finish above your local rivals or your competitive rivals. I guess if you're Liverpool, you want to try and finish above Man United, above Everton, above Chelsea. Of course, we've got Chelsea there as well. So Spurs, that rivalry with Chelsea as well. Just be competitive against Chelsea in those fixtures in particular. That's really interesting. So I'm going to go down the sidebar and we're just going to look for anything interesting or anything new and see what jumps out. So this is our squad. We'll go over it in a bit more detail next episode, but of course we've got some key players here like Hugo Lloris in goal, the defenders that I've mentioned like sort of Dyer, Sanchez, Christian Romero, Lenglet has come in on loan as well. Emerson Royale, the sort of wide players, wing backs, Jed Spence. You move into midfield, you've got Bissouma, you've got Bentancur, Højbjerg, Oliver Skip, Perisic, one of those wing backs as well, bit of a versatile man. And then those forward players, you've got Lucas Moura, you've got Son, you've got Kane, you've got Richarlison, you've got Kulusevski as well on loan, Brian Gill. And we can have a look at the development centre a bit later as well and see if they have any sort of big players in the youth academy that we can maybe look at. But the next thing on the menu is the squad planner, another new feature for FM23, and it wants us to make a tactic before we do that. If we want a possession tactic, we can go for this 5-2-3 with defensive midfielders. And really try and just keep the ball and get it towards that front 3. Like we'll just pick this tactic and let's do a quick pick just so we can have a look at the squad planner. So this is kind of what we're looking at for our squad this season. So this is where you can add players in. If you're looking at signage, you can add players that you have on your shortlist and see where they'd fit into your squad. And then you can look at like your future seasons as well, so we can go ahead to next season And we can see, you know, if there's players that are going to be leaving that were on loan, you can see them. Like if we go to like centre forwards, maybe you can see you've got Troy Parrott waiting in the wings. You've got a 19-year-old there called Dane Scarlett as well. You can see, you know, what these guys are going to be like in the future. So there's a midfielder here called Alfie Devine, 17 years old, very big potential. So if we go into the planner and maybe look at this defensive midfield thing, like this season he's not really involved in the decision. But give it a couple of seasons and he'll be maybe in the conversation to, you know, get some minutes. So we'll have a really strong look at this planner once we actually have a tactic set up and we've, you know, had a look at, you know, potential players that we could bring into the fold from the youth academy. I don't think dynamics will really have changed very much. It's a fairly fresh feature, so I don't think they would have changed too much. And then tactically, I know set pieces haven't changed really. They still look very much the same, slightly different interface, but, you know, essentially the same thing. It just looks a bit different. So that's a bit of a letdown for me. I thought there'd be a big change for set pieces because they've been the same for a long, long time. But I do know that there's some new instructions. So this basic possession style, in possession, there's nothing here that's different, I don't think. And I don't think transition has changed at all either. But it's out of possession where things really look interesting. So the defensive line is still high, it's still low. But the line of engagement has kind of changed a bit. So it's changed, rather than saying a higher or lower line of engagement, it's a high press, it's a mid block, or it's a low block. But also, if you've got a high defensive line, if you do lose the ball, you can drop off more. So it will ask the defenders to adopt a safety first approach by defending closer to their own goal when there's an opposition attacking threat. Reduces the vulnerability of giving up space in behind, but does concede more territory and invite more pressure. So you can have a high defensive line, but you can just drop off a little bit. And at the same time, like rather than the defensive width down here, there's now a pressing trap. So you can trap the players inside or outside. If you want to try and control the middle of the pitch, you can try and trap them outside. So we can read that. It says it sets a pressing trap designed to funnel the ball into wide areas where the opposition have fewer options with the ball and are more likely to concede possession. And also, in terms of the defensive width, you can try and invite crosses or stop crosses. So if you have players you're against that are quite good in the air, you don't want them to get on the end of crosses, so you can try and stop them. Or if you don't want them playing through the middle, you want to try and force them out wide, you can invite those crosses. So allow crosses in an effort to defend in situations they'd be confident of being successful in, perhaps against opponents with smaller forwards or those who prefer to play in more central areas. So you can invite crosses if you think your team's better in the air, or if you think your team is better down the middle of the pitch. So I think that's a really interesting change, and it kind of really encourages you to play those more defensive styles. Like, it didn't really work last year on the game. Low defensive lines just got completely punished. So I think this year it'll be interesting to see how that's changed. The data hub's something we can't really look at until we've got a few games under our belt, but I know they've made a few changes here and there to the data hub. This was only introduced last year, and you know, I think it was a good sort of starting ground for it, and I'm interested to see now what they've picked up from that and what else they've added. I don't think we'll have any new staff positions, will we? I say something like a set piece coach would have been really nice to have in this game, but that's not a thing, unfortunately. So I don't think there's anything changed staff-wise. Same with training. Training looks almost identical. But again, this has been a fairly fresh change for them. The training calendars, just really having more control of the training. Just it looks the same. But again, that's a pretty fresh feature. Looking at our schedule, our first game of the season in the Premier League is our home game against Liverpool. And then we follow that with a trip to Man City. What a start that is. Liverpool and then Man City, one after the other. Wow. When are our London derbies? We face Arsenal on the 10th of September, so that is our 7th game of the season. And we face them in January as well. So that's when our London derby games are. So looking at the competitions there, you can see the Champions League. So this looks really cool to see all the licensing in that. And I've seen the footage of the draws as well. I think they look really good. I know there's been some changes to scouting. The transfer window is currently open, but we don't have any money to spend. We're not going to be able to make any signings this window anyway. But I know that they've gotten rid of the percentage of the knowledge. So looking at the player that was top of our scouting, this Evan Nilsson player, this Brazilian from Porto, we have extensive knowledge of him. So, we know quite a bit about the player. We can see all the attributes because I don't have attribute masking on. So we can see every player's attributes, but this guy looks like a really good sort of centre forward, really good finisher at the ball, really athletic. Just looks like a really solid striker. We can see the club info and the club vision. So here you can see the board's feedback, and the supporters feedback. And if we go into the performance as well, you can see the same for the supporters and the board. I think this is kind of similar to what it was before, so you can see how the board and how the fans are reacting to like how you perform in your matches, the transfers you make, you know, your players that are in form or aren't in form. I think it's similar to what it was before, but I think it's just changed a little bit. And then going into the dev center, there might be some changes here and there regarding youth teams. I think this is, yeah, so you can see your competition performance for your under 21s or your under 18. So we highlighted Alfie Devine, sort of centre midfielder who might be on the up, as someone that maybe could play some minutes very soon. Harvey White, 20-year-old as well, another midfielder, looks pretty good actually, so maybe he's not far away from maybe getting some minutes here and there. So really interested to see like how the season goes with Spurs and how we end up doing. I think we will definitely play a match next episode, whether that's a league match or a friendly. I'm not quite sure. We'll probably play a friendly just so we get to look at the match engine, because I do want to see if that's changed and how much that's changed. And then we're going to have a really good look at the squad next time as well. We can't make any signings in this window, of course, but January might be the opportunity to do that. And then we can work out what system we do want to play and who plays ahead of other players and, you know, who we could potentially bring into this side. But I'm so excited to get cracking with FM23, and this is the first time I'm seeing the game because the beta's only been out for a couple of hours. So I'm excited to get going. Hopefully you're excited for the game as well, and excited for more videos in the future. And if you are, of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, or if you're new, and turn notifications on. If you enjoyed this video, then do drop a like and leave comments. Again, let me know who you're managing in the beta, who you're taking charge of. And we will be back next time. We're going to have a really good look at this squad, and I think we're going to have a look at the match engine for the first time. I think we'll play a friendly just to see how that looks. And then after that, we'll really get cracking with the knacking, with the Premier League. Our first game of the season is at home against Liverpool, and we follow that with a game against Man City. So we might do both of those next time. Who knows? But that is going to do it for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.